Welcome back to the Ted Lasso After Show. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
And boy, oh boy, it's been a long time since the Ted Lasso talk. How about
I
that?
was so pumped. Last night, I'll give you an idea of I was ready for tomorrow. Well, today. And I was just searching, what is the runtime of Ted Lasso? And much to my surprise, they dropped this episode at 9 o'clock yesterday. I was
Yeah,
so happy.
that was cool. We already have a returning watcher here, Boone D. Williams. I'm back. We are glad to have
Welcome
you.
back. Yeah, we love it when you guys come back, when you guys, feed into the conversation, see if we missed something. But yeah, let's do this. What was okay? If you guys are new here, obviously Birdie isn't, but hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, join our community as we go ahead and walk through Ted Lasso this final season. There's been
Yeah.
some trepidation about it.
No, it's
So
definitely final season.
yeah, I
Come
hope it
on.
is. I hope it is, and I hope it's not at the same time. It sucks. But let's just move on here. What was your first thought of our us going back to Ted?
Well, okay, so I honestly, I'm just coming off watching The Last of Us, you too.
Yeah.
That's season finale was earlier this week, and it was so jarring having that mindset of just like there's danger around every corner, there's misery around every corner, and all of a sudden I'm back to the show where people are just like quick and witty and slapping jokes at each other and everything's kind of positive and happy. And I was like, at first I was kind of like I had to like readjust myself. Like
Recalibrate.
I did. I had to recalibrate. I'm like, okay, that's right. This is about as far from The Last of Us as you can get as far as a TV show.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, let's get back to get into it. But I mean, a good episode. Once I recalibrated, it was good.
Man, I'll tell you one thing. My first thought was they wasted no time. I mean,
Hmm.
they jumped right in. We were wondering if we were going to see Dr. Sharon again, and boom, right there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was immediate. I mean, even she was hitting us with some lines. So, I mean, there was.
Yeah,
You got.
she seems to be all right. I was wondering. Well, we were wondering if we'd see her again. But not only did we see her again, but it seems like she's doing okay for herself. But she's got a guy in bed, and she's having I don't know if she's on the clock, but she's having a good time with somebody.
Oh yeah, and it was a pretty adult line that she brought at us too.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing that I was wondering about this season too is how much we're going to get into, like, what's Ted's arc going to be? And I had thought that maybe just the guilt of not being with his son would be kind of a driving force.
Mhm.
And that's right where we start. That's where we begin. The very first thing, they're in the airport and he's having to say goodbye, and
Yeah,
seeing how that affects him. And
I
I'm
guess he
glad
had him
we're
for
here.
what 6 weeks throughout the
6 weeks.
summer. So I
Yeah,
mean, he had a sizable chunk of time of his son's summer vacation, which
right.
was, I mean, it was probably one of the best things that could have happened to Ted.
Yeah,
I mean, knowing how we left him and how he was at that point. Now they gave us a whole bait and switch in the airport too with the cell phone and everything, but
yes.
that was a real quick like, oh, that's not his phone. I was like, okay, what happened in this period of time that they're not showing us?
I know I was confused for just a second with that too, and then when he handed it over to his son, it made sense. Like,
It
"Oh,
made a lot of
fuck,
sense.
man." Yeah.
So yeah, my first instinct of this show was I'm loving it. It's fast. This episode moved faster than other episodes have in the series because
Probably.
they were setting up a lot. I mean, they set up a
Yeah.
ton between Roy and Keeley, Rebecca, uh, Nate,
Yeah.
Ted stuff. I mean, Dr. Sharon. I mean, they hit
Yeah.
us with a ton. The only thing we didn't see was the pub where the crown and
Oh, that's true. I didn't even notice that.
well, the
Yeah, I didn't
crown
notice
and
that was
the
new.
crown and anchor. That's the only area we didn't see this
Yeah.
episode.
I'm sure we'll get back to it,
Oh,
yeah.
well, they're in the trailer. We can't have the schmucks like myself that look like I should be drinking in there and not have the show.
Yeah, so we're gonna get to all those characters. I was actually surprised how much Nate there was, but there was a lot of Nate and Rupert in this episode too. But yeah, we're kind of starting off with Ted, the main character of the show, right? And that's how the season opens up with him. He goes to work, later that morning after, taking his kid to the airport. He's kind of distraught. And he's getting support from Rebecca, and it's tough. They all know it's kind of tough on him. The Rebecca's having her own. She's kind of having doubts around Ted. I felt doubts,
I don't
and
know
I
if
don't know.
it's doubts or it's she's having self-doubts. I think she's now
Yeah.
she was to a level of stress in this episode that we haven't seen since the beginning of maybe episode 1 and 2 of first season.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because now she's like, "Okay, we got to the point where we're trying to get. Now I need Ted to actually be Ted. Be a little more cutthroat. Don't be just lackadaisical, winning's not everything type, situation. We actually need to survive this first season to, not be a joke."
Yeah, I'm wondering how much of that is just this episode to open up and how much of it is gonna be something that Rebecca faces this season because she self-diagnoses, later in the episode when she's sitting around with Keeley. I think she understands that this is on her as far as, like, the expectations she's putting upon Ted are, they need to beat Rupert, basically.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's less about, "Can Ted do this?" and more about, like, "This has to happen," kinda thing.
Well, yeah, now
Um
Ted, there's Nate's not there anymore. So she doesn't know how much
Mhm.
Nate was actually a part of it. So you have Ted doing his thing, and he's
And
just,
Roy's new as a coach too. I mean, Roy is kind of like an unproven coach, you know?
oh yeah, for
Uh,
tactics,
yeah.
absolutely. It's funny when he sits down, he said, "Yeah, this is a 4-4-2," and the Ted, it's like, "That's formation." Beard's like, "I'm proud of you."
Yeah, he's come a long way. He played a lot of FIFA with his boy over
Yes,
those
he
6
did,
weeks.
and he had to
Yeah.
explain why Coke wasn't good for people.
See, that stuff I missed, that dynamic, that, like, the quick back and forth,
Well, it was just
that
the
was
the
fun.
Beard and Roy about Hoosiers, just back and forth. I
Yeah,
watched it, that whole thing, and just the
yeah,
banter. Beard not saying really much, just looking at him and nodding, or one word, and then Roy
right.
only saying 1 or 2 words, and just the chemistry between the two, when not much needs to be said, is it's amazing, really.
Ted, even though Ted's kind of having a lot of self-doubt this episode, he's having a kind of a crisis of
Mhm.
conscience that he gets through, and I think he's in a better place by the end after he has that conversation with his son, and I don't know, maybe we should just play it. I
You just
brought
want
it
to
up,
just
shoot.
go ahead into, okay,
Yeah,
well, go ahead and go into
pull
it.
up that clip.
Hey, big guy. You know I don't like being away from you, right?
Yeah,
And that I'd only ever do it for something really important, something I believe in, yeah?
yeah,
And do you understand why I'm still here?
of course. To win the whole thing.
Well, now don't forget, winning ain't everything.
Yeah, Dad, but you gotta try, right?
No, you're absolutely right. We always have to try.
Good.
His son's dropping some truth bombs on him.
He is. Well, he is Ted Lasso's kid, so I'm sure he's gonna grow up to be, a wise type again. But it's like, so I get where Ted's coming from. Like, you spend 6 weeks with your boy, your total dad time, and then you have to send him back across the ocean, and it's like, why? You have, like, an existential crisis, basically. It's
Yeah.
like, "What am I doing here? Why am I doing this?" It seems like nobody has faith in us, right? That everybody's quoting the team as finishing last for the
Oh, even
season.
Paddington Bear doesn't believe in him.
Pat
0 marmalade sandwiches.
Right, and Ted, who's always been kinda rock solid thus far, as far as, like, what his purpose is and what he's doing, he's shook throughout most of this episode, and it takes that kind. I think it seems like by the end, after his confidence comes back after his son kinda reminds him that you have to try. I think that was a good conversation for him.
Yeah, but I hope it
Um,
doesn't. I hope the underline I hope there's 2 underlying stories within the story this year.
yeah,
Rebecca's stress about not wanting to finish last.
right.
I want that because she got so confident in season 2 and 3. Or at season 2, it's like she almost overcompensated for how almost insecure she was in season 1 about the
Yeah,
whole situation. So maybe a step back for her a little bit and realize, you know what? She doesn't want to lose a team. She doesn't want to be relegated. She doesn't want to be laughed at. So that
mhm,
puts a little more pressure on Ted. And Ted, in this whole episode, he was like, "Why are we here?" He's asked Beard that. I mean, that was really the underlying question for him the whole way. Even
yeah.
when he was laughing at his press conference. I mean, "I'm so dumb. How dumb are you?" Those type things. And I mean, we see everyone, embracing him,
Right.
but there's always going to be that self doubt.
Yeah, and I got that. Even during his time where he was, taking the guys to the sewer, I mean, that, field trip, That was kind of classic Ted Lasso stuff, getting his team to think about things in a certain way,
Just out of the box.
Yeah, thinking outside the box, right? And then during the presser, right, like just kind of like the self-deprecation. But it's funny because there's a grain of truth in those things. You know what I mean? Like he knows how people see him, and I'm worried that like it's kind of how he sees himself right now. There's he shook, and honestly, some of it may have to do with Nate and what ended up happened with Nate because he was so sure and of his relationship with Nate and guiding Nate just like everybody else, and for Nate to turn the way he did
Oh
must have
yeah.
just been a complete shock to Ted's system, so he's probably grappling with that too.
Yeah, I mean, rightfully so, because he
Yeah,
kind of worked him along. He didn't know Nate was taking it anyway. I mean, you
right.
see, we see the struggles that Nate has with his own father,
Mhm.
and his father may have no idea how he's internalizing things. So it's a Nate issue that bled into Ted. So
Yeah. You're right, I think the conversation with his son was a good pat on the back and to help him readjust a little bit, but it's too interesting of a story arc for Ted because I totally get where Ted's at in his frame of mind right now, and I don't think that's a one episode fix. Like this is going to be a season long thing.
and it could play into his panic attacks. They
Mhm.
could
For
bleed
sure.
that into the panic attacks, and then he's still talking, to Doctor. I'm blanking on her name, Doctor Sharon.
Yeah.
So
Did you did you notice they almost used the same like kind of camera movements and sound effects when Nate was going through his moment of tying his shoe during his press conference? It was almost a panic attack until he, spit
yeah,
and
he
did
did
his
his whole spit thing, and
yeah, and he came back and, started ripping into AFC, Richmond AFC.
yeah, yeah, that was some. So as of Ted in this episode here, I mean, where do you think he is mindset wise moving forward? Is he in a good spot? How do you think he's going to respond to needing to put more? I don't want to say effort into the team to coach him, but more maybe traditional type of things into the team.
I think Rebecca has a point, what I mean? All this stuff is great foundationally, getting that may be the biggest step, honestly, is
Yeah.
getting your team's headspace, being in the right frame of mind, being able to take a loss and not get knocked down. Like all the emotional and mental things that you have to get through as an athlete, I assume. I'm no athlete. But all the things, all the movies I've watched, all the things I've heard, so he's done most of the work already, but still, they're not gonna get to where they need to get to without that last 10%.
Player like when Danny Rojas came in season one, they need to bring, seeing that they were promoted. Now there's more money, so they need to get a player in that will be side by side with Jamie and help in the midfield with Danny. You know what I mean? There's that kind of soccer thing. And when he said, our guys are good, and that's when we started seeing Leslie in the back. Oh shoot, I hit my mic.
Oh, he did that little half vomit thing, like, 4 or 5 times in this
Oh
episode.
yeah, the whole
He's
Nate, yeah,
yeah, he's
yeah,
stressed too.
Higgins. That was his last name,
Higgins, yeah.
Higgins.
But I know, how did you remember his first name more
I
than his
don't
last
know
name?
how I remembered Leslie. I have no idea how Leslie came to mind. That is weird. But
Well, here's what I want to see more conflict. Honestly, like I kind of like that there's tension between Rebecca and Ted as far as his tactics for this season and where they're at. Like that seems interesting and natural for me that they would kind of butt heads because not everything's going to be copacetic all the time, within a team structure. So I kind of like that. And honestly, even though it's a scene that I loved from the first season when she finally admits to him that of what she'd been doing and he forgives her instantly. Every time I see that scene, I love it because it's just it was so unusual. We haven't really seen them butt heads since then, and we're being on opposing ideas or opposing sides. So it was interesting to see, and I hope we see more of it.
we have Amber here said Ted's totally going to go and look at a new player the way he's viewing Jake. Jake, I'm not. Did I miss Jake?
Ted's totally going to look at the new player the way he's viewing Jake. Oh, like somebody new coming in. I assume. Well,
Oh,
Jake is the stepdad or
that's right. Yeah, that's right.
mommy's friend.
Yeah. Okay. Oh,
Mommy's friend.
mom.
Yeah, mom's new friend.
Oh man, I don't. That would suck for the new
that's gonna
player. But yeah, I can
I
see.
we didn't mention that. We kind of said that Ted's, in a good headspace, after that talk with his son, but we forgot to mention that that talk with his son did include the fact that his mom's seeing somebody else.
Yeah, that's what Sam, mom's new friend.
All right, yeah. Thanos himself.
Oh man,
Um,
yeah, but it's it's gonna be interesting because I
yeah,
personally am of the opposite mindset of you. The one thing I love everything about the show from beginning to where we are now.
yeah.
But what I most missed in season 2 was the levity that we had in season 1. It was there,
Mm,
but there were more serious undertones in more of the episodes than there were in other between Jamie and his father, Ted's
right.
panic attacks, things like that. So we didn't get much of that in the first season. So I would like a little less tension, a little more levity in this season. But I mean, I'll take either, honestly.
Levity's fine as long as you are telling a story.
Yeah.
A lot of these people are, I like the witty banter back and forth, but that's only a part of the reason why I enjoy the show. Like a lot of it is just the character study of it all and how these people interact with each other. But I mean, as far as mentioning the characters, there's a lot of other characters beyond Ted.
Yeah.
It's Ted's whole world that we get into here. Who do you want to talk about next?
Let's go ahead and hit up Rebecca and Keeley because they
Okay.
had a pretty decent size, to play in this episode.
Yeah.
And I mean, Rebecca, we already talked about Rebecca and how she's stressed out. The whole city and everyone's talking about how they're going to finish last in the Premier League. And yeah, that
Yeah.
one player, Man or Han or the German guy, I think it was, or
Yeah. It's
The
like his
Dutch, I
name
think it
too.
may have been. And he
Right.
was
It's
like, well,
Dutch.
statistically, we get relegated. And
He was just telling the truth. He was telling the truth, and nobody wanted to hear it.
dropping more truth bombs and no one wanted to hear 'em. But that's got Rebecca so stressed out.
Yeah.
And then we finally see Keeley in her new environment.
Oh, I knew as soon as she started crying in her office and mentioned that this was a typical normal thing, I knew that her and Roy were not in a good place because that was kind of a teaser. Like hadn't even seen or they hadn't talked about each other, and then we find out later in the episode where the relationship status was, and
See,
not
I didn't
good.
get that immediately.
Yeah.
I just got that she was overwhelmed. She took
Mm,
on what the job she took on. I don't think she really realized the level of work and dedication it was going to take, how much time away from everyone that she loved. Because when she was working with AFC Richmond, she was
yeah.
working those hours, but she was with Roy. She was with Rebecca. She was with Higgins. She was with the people she loved. And now
Yeah.
she's with, the CFO, the corporate flying thing or something like that. She was calling them.
Corporate flying object, yeah. Well, yeah, it's funny how they portray this new work setting for her because it seems very kind of sterile and not very happy. Like all the workers are kind of like,
Not her
uh,
personality at all.
no, which surprised me. Like, did you hire these people or were they forced upon you?
I've,
Or
I've
like,
I've got a feeling they were forced because on the CFO and how she came in and basically
yeah,
gave her the third degree about the flowers and the 200 pounds a week. I
right.
think a lot of what's happening within that company is not her say. She may be the figurehead, but there's other people behind the scenes pulling the actual strings.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because at the end of last season, like this was a very positive thing. She was so excited about it. It's been the wedge kind of between her and Roy as far as like how much time it's going to take up for her, and that's what kind of set off this whole
Hmm.
split between the two. But Keeley was super excited about this opportunity, and everybody was pretty much excited for her, Rebecca included. And to find her in a spot where not only is she having these issues with Roy, but it's just you're right, she just does not seem as happy here in this work setting.
Nowhere near, and I don't think this has got legs. I think this is short lived.
Yeah.
I think she's gonna walk, and I think she's gonna wind up back with AFC Richmond, and it only may be a couple episodes. It
Mm,
may be episode 3 or 4 before she's back with Rebecca,
yeah.
or Rebecca walks in there and pretty much pulls a power play and says, "You're leaving. You're coming back with
Maybe.
me,"
Yeah,
because she sees how mentally it's changing her personality. This job,
right.
she's not the bubbly, fun, kick off your shoes and just jump on the couch with someone you just met and just talk boys type person anymore.
Yeah. It seems like it's just not as happy of an environment. I mean, she's struggling as it is in her home life, and to, continue that struggle during her 9 to 5 workday, that's just she's not in a great place right now. So
No,
I understand why she's leaving her mascara all over,
everyone's shirt, Higgins'
everyone's
shirt,
shirt.
Rebecca's
Yeah,
shirt.
yeah,
It was heartbreaking actually. As soon as she hit that button, she's like, everyone, they lost the building because the prior owner was pinching everyone's bottoms. And,
yeah.
and then you have this really creepy like closing of this window, and she just closes it so she can cry. It was heartbreaking actually.
Amber says, "I think Keely and Roy are going to realize Phoebe's right. They're being stupid." I felt that same way. Wait, that's Phoebe. That whole scene with Phoebe was pretty genius because those two were expecting something else, tears or like
Well,
why
she
or
knew it was
something.
coming. She was like, "Oh, you're giving me ice cream before dinner. Either I did something wrong or
Right.
you guys did something." So she knew something was on the way. So she was prepped. Uh, yes, I think she's right. Yes, I think Roy knows it. I don't think it makes a difference. I think Keely by the end of the season is going to go full circle. She's going to wind up back with uh with Jamie,
Amy,
and
no
I
way.
and I
You want to
think
take bets?
Roy will wind up with Phoebe's teacher.
I don't know.
I may be completely wrong, but I don't.
That's another pie in the face bet, I think.
A pie in the face. I don't know if I'm willing
Yeah.
to
Are
put
you are
that
you
much on
willing
it.
to yeah, okay.
I don't know if I'm
Let's
willing
see.
to put that much on it. I have a
Let's
habit of
test it.
losing those bets.
Well, I don't know. It is a little early for them to question. It seems like over the season they had, or between the break anyway, they had this conversation. They had the split already, and we're already like thinking about getting back together or having those doubts of if they're doing the right thing. The first episode, that is a little quick. That should be like a prolonged thing. If it's like the story of the season is them coming back together, for them to already kind of think of it, in episode one. I don't know. It's hard to say where they're gonna end up. Um,
because I mean, like I said, Roy said he didn't know when Phoebe called him out in the car, and then even when they were telling Phoebe, and they were saying when she asked why, they didn't really have an answer, and they basically both said they got so busy, and so you weren't busy before, and then was it Roy said something about the coaching change, and then immediately Keely speaks up to go ahead and like reassure him he'll be fine, and then they look at each other and it shuts down. So she still has that for him. She still has that like
Phoebe, I don't know if it's the writing or if kids would actually do this, but like Phoebe pulls a move that I pull sometimes. When I disagree with something, I just get the other person to start talking out loud about it and have them be the one to talk through it, and I just meet it with, okay. So it's just so it's out there, and I'm not gonna give judgment or opinion. She does later, of course, to Roy in the
oh
car,
yeah, when
but
Roy's she's I mean, quite because I think her and Roy have a relationship like very few kids and adults have.
they have a shorthand together. Yeah, for sure.
So Amber's
Yeah.
got another one here. It says, true, but they may not realize it at the same time, to draw it out.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, we're in the final season here, right? So I mean, it's like this is Ted Lasso Endgame. We're getting somewhere with these characters, and they're on a road to somewhere. So I prefer to see them back together. How you keep that interesting for a whole season, I think that's a challenge. But I mean, these writers are up to it.
Oh yeah, I mean they've done a great job to this point. I mean,
Yeah,
really, I mean that's all we really got from Roy and Keeley as a whole. It's
yeah,
just a continuation of what we got at the end of last season when Roy went on holiday without her because she couldn't take the time off, and
yeah.
it ended up like this. And what you're saying, a lot of us kind of seen that coming a little bit, but I mean, we had that wild card, we had that Jamie wild card out there, and they've already given us weird clips within the trailer when Roy and unless it's a weird cut of like Jamie walking in the room and Roy and Keely are sitting on the bed and he's looking at him like what's going on, or if that's supposed to be Phoebe walking in the room. I don't know what that was. It
I
just
just get none of that. You think there's gonna be more love triangle stuff with Jamie this season, huh?
I don't think they would have went the way of him telling Jamie telling Keely that he still loved her during the funeral
Yeah.
if there wasn't more story to be told between the two of them.
I'm on the opposite end. I don't think they're going there this season. I'm curious what Amber thinks. Amber, you're watching us. What do you think? Is
Oh
there going to
yeah, a
be
female's
more?
perspective. There we go. I like that.
Yes. Is there going to be more Jamie, Keeley, Roy love triangle stuff this season? Are they going to open
I
themselves
don't know
up
if it's
to
gonna be a
that?
love triangle. I think Roy will be out of the picture.
Well, I guess not even love triangle. Are we going to see a Keeley Jamie relationship this season? I guess that's what I'm asking. Does Keeley even go back? And this just seems like so much in the past. I know Jamie's had growth and stuff, but I don't see Keeley happening, but whatever. Let's see
She
here.
finds it funny. I say appreciate it, guys.
Maybe Amber doesn't want to give her opinion. I don't know. We'll see. Jury's still
There we
out.
go. Well, let's go ahead and so we talked about. Let's just talk about Nate. Let's just get into it.
There was a lot of Nate this episode.
Okay, let's start with this. What are your feelings going into the season about Nate? Because there is some real. I've heard people saying you want to, back over him in a car and throw him out of an airplane. They're like this, like they're putting him in the same category as Bolton on Game of Thrones.
Real quick before we move on, Amber says, personally, I think really, so Roy Keeley is for real. Keeley outgrew Jamie. She knows Roy is who she belongs with. Amber agrees with me. Thank you very much. That's 1 point for Sean. And I agree wholeheartedly, Amber. Okay.
Me
So,
being
yeah,
wrong
what
would
about
be a farce. As long as the show ends the way I got it going,
yeah,
I'm good.
good thing you didn't take that pie challenge. Yeah.
Yes. I played a long game here.
How do I feel about Nate? I don't hate Nate as much as other people hate Nate because I think they did a lot of work to show why Nate is the way he is. There's some out of left field character choices as far as the whole spitting in the mirror thing and the whole confidence. Like when they introduced that, I was like, oh, that's different. That's not really how I view Nate.
It's almost a psychopathic type of response.
It is, and that stuff always comes from somewhere. And it's I think it's maybe so far they've showed us it's from the relationship that he has with his father. His father's overbearing and has all the effect. Basically, his father's never said, "I'm proud of you," or "You're doing a good job."
Well, he's
or,
a father of like the 50s almost. Who would show no emotion, period. No tears, no hugs, no I'm proud of yous.
Just culturally. I mean, culturally, that's still a thing, with depending on which culture you're into. But that could be damaging. It could be tough for a kid to grow up with. But there's also, and they have a flashback this episode with the whole team just treating Nate like dirt. I mean, some of that probably left its mark.
Well, yeah, back when Ted was just coming on, when they were throwing their jerseys at him, and Jamie was picking on him, and just all of that. Which, I mean, yeah, that absolutely played a part in it.
But is it enough for him to be such a savage that he is now? Like, I know he's looking for respect, but have they done enough to show that turn? And that's a question for last season too. Do you feel like there was enough to? And he does have that. The last episode, he has that conversation with Ted, how upset he was. But
I think so. I think he got more and more of a look at me. I'm the one doing this. Ted isn't doing this. This has nothing to do with Ted. This has nothing to do with that American football coach coming over here. He knows nothing of what's going on. If it wasn't for me, this team would still be, in the championship league. They wouldn't be in the Premier League.
Now, do you think he values, because everybody else, Rebacca included, can see what Ted is doing for the team. He may not necessarily write up every play that they make, some of which he did because they were football plays and they, had, that sneak attack kind of stuff. But some of it he did.
The whole park the bus thing was his idea.
Right.
They survived that game because he's like, we gotta park the bus. Don't stop anything. We'll make something happen if we have to.
But Ted's real value as a coach thus far has been more of just the mental and emotion. We talked about it already, just the mental and emotional getting the team together. Does Nate recognize those accomplishments, or he just? I think Nate thinks
the assistant coach should get as much credit for what's going well as the manager does, and even Beard called him out on that, and I think Roy called him out on that as well. So they were in that room together when that all took place. So I don't think he understands the true structure of who gets credit for when things go well and who gets blamed when they go bad. because I think they're going to go bad. I think they're going to go bad quick in West Ham.
Well, we already see what kind of pressure he's in. I mean, he's under eventually when something is under that much pressure, it cracks. I mean, he's working directly under Rupert. Rupert isn't the kind of guy you want to work for.
Oh no.
Right. So that's going to be a dam that bursts eventually.
So what we got here? We have Nate, his arc goes so many ways. He and Ted need to come together over their dad issues and realize complete without hate. Yeah, I mean, we're going to see that. I think we're going to, I'm not sure when we're going to see it because they kind of hint towards it in one of the trailers where Ted and Henry, his son, are watching West Ham. I don't know if they're in a tournament and, Richmond's off.
Yeah.
And he's in a West Ham jersey. So I don't know when we're going to get it. I don't know. It's hard telling. I'm having a hard time reading what this storyline when they in West Ham's going to be, because if they're being picked to finish top in the table, which is the top 4, if they're slipping, that's going to go sideways fast, because Rupert's not going to get laughed at, and if Richmond's winning and West Ham is now sliding and not getting the results they want, and they come close in the table, there's going to be a humbling that takes place. And I don't know. It may end up really bad for him. Like I every time he's on the screen, and when he walked in that building and went up the escalator, didn't even acknowledge someone saying, hi. Yeah. And then when that guy walked into office and he told him to get out because he was looking at social media and how things were going well for him. And then later in the episode, he opens up the social media and he said, now he's the joke because Ted handled the presser so well. And, turn the tables on West Ham and on, Shelley there or Nate.
Right.
So I don't know how this is going to go.
I don't either. The whole Nate thing is honestly maybe the weakest part of this whole show, in my opinion, because the Nate from season 1 is just so polar opposite from this scumbag that we see in this episode in season 3. I don't know if they really did the work to see that progression, in my opinion. He was just like, he was getting picked on, and maybe his dad is not the greatest supporter of him, but he was like shy, but he was like joyful when he was finally getting that attention that he craved. And I don't think that Ted ever did anything to him personally to really cause that betrayal. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out.
I think it's a head case. It's putting it badly. It's all
I don't want to. I don't want to diagnose the kid, but it seems like there's some bipolar or something going. Like there's more than what we see. You know what I mean?
There's Dr. Sharon.
Yes,
that's what he needed. He needed some Dr. Sharon.
Yeah,
and he didn't get any. I don't know if it was just him being stubborn or whatever it was.
Right.
Let's see what we got here. See, Nate. Let me see. He wants to glory for himself. He doesn't know what being a team player means. Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And then Amber also says, let's see. It's a bit ironic about driving Rupert's car, but made such a fuss about Ted's suit. Right. Wonder when someone's going to point that out to him. That's
I didn't even think of that.
Yes. That's funny.
Yeah, is that the suit that Ted bought you? It's my suit now. Was that the car Rupert bought you?
Right.
I didn't even think of that. Essentially, they did the exact same thing, both meaning well. I think Rupert means well by getting him the car.
Yeah.
I think it means well because he wants him to feel like he belongs. If he's driving his car, that green car, and parking it amongst...
Oh, you got that from Rupert, that he meant well? I got it that, like, I don't want that crappy car parked next to my car. I'm just going to get you a car that is going to look okay next to my car. Yeah.
I mean, you could be
have more to do with Rupert than Nate, but so that's what I get out of this first episode is like, not everything is all, sunshine and rainbows over on that side of the fence. Rupert is going to be a tough guy to work under. That's going to be a strange.
Do you think they're going to lose their first game?
No, I think we're going to see Nate on a roll for a while before we see.
We're not going to see the dum-dum line? I couldn't believe you broke out the dum-dum line.
No, I think they're gonna show more of Nate being a jerk before we start seeing the
Kind of
path
a
to
come up,
him
it's
coming
coming or
back.
humbling coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd
Um,
be yeah. I mean that it's gonna happen. I'm waiting for it, and I'll be completely honest with everybody. I can't wait for it because when that music plays, and Nate's coming in and with him standing on the sidelines and calling players over and tell them to stand on the dum dum line. You don't want to be over here on the dum dum line with them. I'm like, man, you just don't treat people like that, and no one treated him like that though.
That's what I'm saying. Is like it's almost like he's like Ebenezer Scrooge now, and it's going to take 3 ghosts for him to turn back into the person that he was. Like he is such a jerk now, like with no reason. Like it's not one. It's one thing to like treat people that were treating him badly, poorly. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
people are being nice to him, and he's just treating them like dirt. Like that's where it's kind of a bridge too far for me as far as the character.
Is there a
That's where
redemption arc possible?
I don't know. I was going to ask you the same thing. Like for me, I don't know. It's going to
I
take a lot of
think he's
work.
going to wind up. I think what's going to wind up happening is, you know how I think the season's going to end. I think they're going to
Yeah.
win it all in the Premier League and everything. And then Ted may walk. Ted may is going to go back to the States, back over here with the son. Whatever that is. I think with that happening, I think Nate may wind up out of the game because he would have burnt too many bridges. He burned him in Richmond, and then he would have burnt whatever connections he had within West Ham, even though Rupert is whatever he's going to be. You know what I mean? The whole Wonderkin, moniker he has will be done.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's any going back to Richmond AFC for Nate, even after there might be, mending the fences between his relationship with
If
Ted.
Jamie can come back, Nate can come back.
I don't think so. I think Nate's done worse to that team than Jamie has.
You think
Jamie
so?
Jamie was always kind of a dick, right? He was kind of the guy that was like, but he brought it as like he was fun. Like everybody thought it was like cool, right? He's being the cool guy, and some guys even liked it. Some guys were laughing with him. You know what I mean? And when he wasn't with Richmond, he never shit on Richmond, right? He was just like, yeah, well, I'm good, and it was all about him.
Yeah, okay.
Nate
Tried
is
to
more
destroy
just
Richmond through the media.
yeah, exactly. Like he straight up called Ted a shitty coach, and like he's looking to like just kick
He's
him
looking
while
to
they're
bury him.
down. Yeah. Jamie never did that.
No,
Um,
Jamie didn't quite, but he was just kind of asked to everybody within it. But I mean, that may be true about a lot of professional athletes.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see. That's why, and it's gonna be a focus of the season. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had that little Lego thing at the beginning. I think.
Yeah, that's true too. She
Yeah,
thinks Nate can be redeemed. It's going to take a lot of humility on his part. Just because it doesn't mean,
he will. But right now, there's still a chance. Oh, there's a chance for sure. I think it's just going to be a Herculean effort on the writer's part to get him to where he needs to be. And I don't know if there's going to be a satisfying way. Like, I don't think he's going to be like
so you're
back on
not
the
buying
team.
the turn. So without you buying the turn, you may not buy the turn back.
Right. Yeah. He's so polar opposite of where he's been. Yeah. I mean, that's true. Maybe he will get back to what the kind of guy he used to be. Because I'm not sure how he got to where he is now. So I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good point. There is a redemption arc. You can tell Nate doesn't like being a dick. For forgiveness, Ted, is a catalyst. So
I don't know if he doesn't like being a dick though, because it's one thing to be in the press conference and try to please Rupert, but when he's in his office scrolling through social
that's
media,
his personality.
and yeah, and when the guy comes in and says and is being nice to him and kind, and he just tells him to get out, like that's just him being a jerk, and he's not like trying to impress Rupert in that moment. He's just
Nobody's there. Yeah,
All right. So I don't know, and the whole
well, he was doing that
thing,
to the Kit Boy in Richmond last season.
right? He was, yeah. So I don't know who this Nate guy is. The guy that spits in the mirror and spits. I don't know who that guy is. I don't know. It's a different guy than the Nate that I thought I knew.
Well, I mean, to me, I thought it was a good start. It was a good getting back into it. There was enough levity, like I like. I mean, I was laughing at lines. There was things that were funny in it. Dad joke. What does a tree and an elephant have in common? They both have trunks.
Was that somewhere in the episode?
No, I just felt like throwing one out there.
Okay.
That I'm so dumb, just kind of fell in with his presser. I was
Oh,
way out in
yeah.
left field. My fault. I kind of left you. But I'm looking forward to next week. I want to see where they go. There's no way they can pack this much into every week. They need to fit it
right.
out a little bit. They got to give us a little bit of some, here and there, a little bit of training, a little bit of. I don't think we're going to get a lot of gameplay because we typically don't. But they actually show like next week. It's like I don't want to go to Chelsea. So I mean, they're going to be going and playing Chelsea in Chelsea, which holy God, that would be terrifying if I was in their shoes. But I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, they got a lot of work to do this season if they want to get to where we think that they're going to. The stuff with Nate and the stuff with everybody, really. But like I said, the writers are talented. I'm sure that they can get there. But yeah, they got a lot to do. And you're right. I've kind of been like questioning the episode here and there, but I think it was a good kind of reintroduction to the world. You know what I mean? Like they had a lot of work to do with this episode to get us reacquainted with everybody, and they did it.
Dude, the minute I heard the opening, the head, and then the stands, it soothed my soul. It just felt good hearing that music and seeing Ted sit in the stands and seeing the stands turn to red and saying Lasso. It all felt so like we're back.
And we're back. The Ted Lasso After Show is back. We're going to be back here every Wednesday night. So, week to week, Wednesdays as the show premieres. Well, I don't know. They might keep doing the Tuesday night thing.
I'm keeping an eye on Tuesday night at 9:00.
Yeah.
Because I despise the fact that they release the shows at 3 a.m. and West Coast gets them at midnight. It drives me nuts. But I got lucky and found out that it came out at 9:00.
We'll be back here next Wednesday to talk about episode 2 and forward. So keep joining us, guys. We loved it. You guys joined us tonight. We love that you were talking to us throughout season 2. You can tell that we love this show and we want to, have the conversation directly with you guys. So be sure to leave your comments as we're on here live and check us out afterwards. We're on our YouTube channel. We have all kinds of things that we do. We've done an after show we're doing The Mandalorian right now. We're double booked.
Check us out Friday nights, 8:30. If you're a Star Wars fan, you like The Mandalorian, we're doing that as well. So we're kind of big. We got a lot on our slate right now.
We do. So check us out. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until then, we'll see you next Wednesday.
I'll say, what is it? Don't be a goldfish. See you next week.
See ya.